Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jason Fung. Have you ever received the news that your creatinine is slightly elevated or glimpsed foamy urine one morning and felt a sudden surge of dread grip your chest? Most people experience this. In that moment of panic, many individuals make an identical decision. They eliminate meat from their diet entirely, hoping their kidneys will finally receive a respite. However, here is an urgent reality that most people are never made aware of. For thousands of individuals with kidney concerns, particularly adults over 60, completely abandoning meat does not safeguard the kidneys. In fact, it can quietly nudge them closer to failure. I am Dr. Jason Fung, a physician focused on kidney health and metabolic disease. For decades, I have worked closely with patients facing kidney dysfunction, chronic kidney disease, and metabolic stress, studying how nutrition, insulin regulation, and lifestyle choices directly affect kidney function. Through clinical practice and long-term patient observation, I have learned how small daily decisions can either slowly damage the kidneys or help preserve and protect them. Today, I want to share what I have learned through years of medical experience and patient care. In this discussion, I will clarify why individuals with compromised kidneys should never fully eradicate meat. Furthermore, I will guide you through 4 specific types of meat that, when consumed appropriately, can actually assist in stabilizing creatinine levels, reducing nocturnal urination, and restoring strength rather than depleting it. If you or someone you care about is striving to protect their kidneys, this knowledge could transform not only your dietary approach, but the entire trajectory of your well-being. Pay close attention. The most critical segment begins now. The dangerous kitchen mistake. One of the most hazardous errors I witness among people with kidney issues does not occur in a medical facility. It happens silently in the kitchen. The instant someone hears the phrase, "your creatinine is high," or notices foamy urine, fear assumes command. This fear propels individuals toward radical choices. They cease consuming meat altogether. No poultry, no fish, no beef, just soup, vegetables, perhaps a small portion of rice, day after day, clinging to the hope that their kidneys will at last find relief. But here is the uneasy truth most are never informed of. Cutting out meat entirely does not shield weakened kidneys. In numerous instances, it hastens renal decline. I wish to recount the story of an actual patient I assisted, a 65-year-old man who did everything by the book. The moment his laboratory results indicated rising creatinine, he eliminated all meat. Within several months, he experienced rapid muscle loss. His arms grew thinner, his legs felt feeble, ascending a staircase became an exhausting ordeal, and when we repeated his labs, his creatinine was higher, not lower. This astonishes people. Yet there is a clear biological explanation why protein restriction backfires. When your body receives insufficient protein, it does not merely decelerate, it begins breaking down your own muscle tissue to survive. Here is the aspect most people overlook. Muscle breakdown releases more metabolic waste into the bloodstream, including creatinine. Therefore, instead of lessening the kidney's workload, extreme protein restriction can actually augment the burden on kidneys already under stress. In my years of clinical practice, I have reviewed countless nutrition studies that consistently demonstrate that 30 to 40% of hospitalized chronic kidney disease patients are malnourished, not overnourished. These patients did not deteriorate because they consumed excessive protein. They deteriorated because they consumed too little for an extended period. Protein is not an optional fuel source, it is structural. It sustains muscle mass, bolsters immune function, aids in blood pressure regulation, and stabilizes metabolism. Without it, the body becomes fragile, infections occur more readily, blood pressure grows unstable, fatigue deepens, and the kidneys, which depend on stable circulation and metabolic equilibrium, suffer the repercussions. This is why I and other kidney specialists do not advise avoiding protein. We advise controlling protein. There is an immense distinction between moderation and elimination. Moderation protects the kidneys. Elimination weakens the entire system. Conceptualize it this way: removing protein entirely is like removing bricks from a damaged wall, hoping it will collapse less. In reality, the structure grows weaker, not stronger. What the wall requires is not removal, it needs support applied thoughtfully and precisely. Breaking free from fear, this is where many individuals become trapped. They finally comprehend that quitting meat entirely was an error. But now a new fear takes hold. If I start eating meat again, won't I make things worse? That fear is understandable, but it is also incomplete. Because the true danger is not meat itself. The genuine danger is the wrong type of meat, eaten the wrong way, in the wrong quantity. This is where everything shifts. Once you understand which meats are gentle on the kidneys and how they actually diminish muscle loss, fatigue, and nighttime urination, instead of increasing them, the entire strategy transitions from fear to control. Yet simply knowing you should not eliminate meat is insufficient. There is another factor most people overlook, and it determines whether protein becomes medicine or poison. That factor begins with the very first type of meat people should reintroduce. Meat hash. 1. Skinless chicken breast. Once people finally grasp that eliminating meat entirely can actually weaken the body and accelerate kidney decline, the next question always arises swiftly. And it is a fair one. If I start eating meat again, where do I even begin? After months or even years of apprehension, most people no longer trust food. They fear one incorrect choice could undo all their efforts. That is why the first meat you reintroduce matters more than any other. For most individuals with weak kidneys, that initial step should be skinless chicken breast. Not because it is fashionable, not because it is bland, but because, biologically, it places the least strain on stressed kidneys while delivering exactly what the body requires to halt its self-cannibalization. I want to share a pattern I have observed repeatedly in my practice. Patients who reintroduce red meat first often feel heavy, bloated, or anxious afterward, but patients who begin with chicken breast almost invariably report something different within days: more stable energy, less muscle weakness, and fewer nighttime trips to the bathroom. There is a reason for this. Skinless chicken breast is one of the purest protein sources available. It is rich in essential amino acids, very low in saturated fat, and contains virtually no connective tissue to slow digestion. This means your body can absorb the protein efficiently without generating excess metabolic waste for the kidneys to clear. From my clinical nutrition standpoint, this is enormously significant. The research I have studied on protein metabolism reveals that lean poultry protein produces less nitrogenous waste per gram of usable protein compared to fattier meat cuts. For kidneys already operating overtime, that difference is not minor. It is protective. The common chicken mistakes, but here is the mistake many people make. They eat chicken, but they eat it incorrectly. They leave the skin on, they fry it in oil, they drench it in salty marinades or sauces. Suddenly, a kidney-friendly food transforms into a hidden stressor. The skin of chicken contains a high concentration of saturated fat. Saturated fat stiffens blood vessels, elevates blood pressure, and reduces blood flow to the kidneys. For someone with compromised renal function, that combination is dangerous. When you remove the skin, however, everything changes. Now you are left with a protein source that supports muscle maintenance, stabilizes blood sugar, and helps preserve immune strength, all of which indirectly protect kidney function. In fact, from what I have observed over decades, maintaining muscle mass is one of the strongest predictors of improved outcomes in chronic kidney disease. One patient shared a remark that stayed with me. After reintroducing approximately 3 ounces of skinless chicken breast daily, simply boiled or lightly steamed, he told me, "I didn't feel full, I felt steady. His legs stopped trembling when he stood up. His afternoon energy crashes softened, and most importantly, he ceased waking to urinate 3 or 4 times every night." That is not magic, that is physiology returning to balance. Protein supports the hormones that regulate fluid balance and blood pressure. When those systems stabilize, the kidneys stop being forced into emergency mode overnight. The portion control principle, the key is portion control. For most adults with kidney weakness, we are discussing 3 to 4 ounces per day, not a heaping plate spread out, consumed calmly without heavy seasoning. When protein arrives gently, the kidneys respond gently. This is where confidence begins to replace fear. Once people realize they can eat chicken without harming their kidneys and actually feel better doing so, an important shift occurs. They stop viewing food as the enemy, they start seeing it as a tool. But here is what most people do not yet realize. Protein alone does not address one of the biggest hidden drivers of kidney damage, chronic inflammation, and vascular stress. This is where another food quietly surpasses chicken in ways that surprise almost everyone. Meat hash 2, small ocean fish. Once people regain confidence eating skinless chicken without harming their kidneys, something interesting happens. They feel more stable, but many still express the same sentiment. I'm eating better, but I still feel inflamed. My blood pressure is unpredictable. My legs still swell by evening. This tells me something important. Kidney decline is not driven by protein alone. One of the most overlooked forces damaging the kidneys is chronic inflammation and vascular stress, damage occurring quietly inside the blood vessels that nourish the kidneys every second of the day. This is where small ocean fish entirely transform the conversation. Fish like sardines, mackerel, anchovies, and herring, the varieties most people ignore, are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds I have studied in kidney and cardiovascular health. I have witnessed this unfold many times in my own practice. One woman in her late 60s had already corrected her protein intake. She ate chicken properly, her labs ceased worsening, but they did not improve. What did improve was everything else once she added small fish twice a week. Within a few weeks, her ankle swelling subsided, her nighttime urination decreased, and her blood pressure readings finally stabilized. That was not coincidence. The science of omega-3s directly reduce inflammatory signaling in the body. In people with kidney weakness, inflammation slowly scars the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys, diminishing filtration over time. By calming that inflammatory process, omega-3s help preserve remaining kidney function instead of allowing silent damage to continue. Large population studies I have reviewed demonstrate that people who regularly consume omega-3 rich fish exhibit lower rates of chronic kidney disease progression, improved blood pressure control, and reduce cardiovascular risk, which matters because heart and kidney health are inseparable. But there is another critical detail most people do not realize. Fish size matters. Large fish like tuna, swordfish, and shark accumulate heavy metals such as mercury over their long lifespans. For someone with impaired kidney filtration, those metals are harder to clear and can create additional toxic stress. Small ocean fish live short lives. They reside lower on the food chain. This means far less heavy metal accumulation, rendering them significantly safer for individuals with kidney issues. Nutritional powerhouses. Nutritionally, they punch above their weight. In just a few ounces, small fish provide not only omega-3s, but also high-quality protein, vitamin D, selenium, and iodine, nutrients that support immune balance, reduce fatigue, and improve circulation to the kidneys. This combination explains why many of my patients notice something subtle yet meaningful after adding small fish to their routine. They do not just feel nourished, they feel less puffy, less tense, and more rested. Preparation matters here too. The benefits vanish when fish is deep fried, heavily salted, or drowned in sauces. But when it is gently steamed, baked, or lightly pan-cooked with minimal seasoning, it becomes one of the most kidney-supportive foods available. 2 servings per week are sufficient to make a difference. Not daily, not excessive, just consistent. This is where people often undergo a mental shift. They realize kidney protection is no longer about restriction. It is about precision, the right protein, the right fats, the right frequency. However, there is a trap hiding in plain sight, especially in households that rely on familiar everyday foods. A type of meat so common that people stop questioning it, and that is precisely why it becomes dangerous when consumed incorrectly. Meat hash 3, lean pork loin. After learning about small ocean fish, many people feel a sense of relief. They finally perceive that food can protect their kidneys instead of harming them. But right at this point, another problem emerges, and it is far more dangerous because it feels familiar. The meat most people consume every single week is not chicken or fish. It is pork. Let me be clear. Pork is not the enemy. The danger lies in the fact that most people eat the wrong part in the wrong form without realizing it. I have observed this countless times in my practice. A patient informs me, I eat pork every day, but not much. When I inquire how it is prepared, the answer is usually the same: fatty cuts, pork belly, ribs, sausages, deli meat, or leftovers that are salty and heavily seasoned. Then they wonder why their ankles swell by evening, why their blood pressure spikes at night, or why they wake up exhausted despite eating normally. What's really happening here is what is truly happening. Fatty pork and processed pork products contain elevated levels of saturated fat, sodium, and preservatives. Saturated fat stiffens blood vessels, sodium causes fluid retention, preservatives increase oxidative stress. Together, they create the perfect storm for kidney strain, especially in individuals whose filtration capacity is already reduced. But when pork is selected correctly, the narrative changes entirely. Lean pork loin is a completely different food. It is low in fat, rich in high-quality protein, and contains significant amounts of vitamins B1 and B6, nutrients that support nerve function, energy metabolism, and muscle strength. For people with kidney weakness who feel tired, shaky, or mentally foggy, this matters more than they realize. I recall a man in his late 50s who had sworn off pork entirely because he believed it was harming his kidneys. After I guided him to switch to small portions of lean pork loin, boiled or lightly steamed, no sauces, no skin, he noticed something unexpected. His afternoon fatigue eased, his legs felt steadier, and his nighttime bathroom trips gradually decreased from 3 to 1. That improvement was not coincidence. The stabilizing effect: lean pork provides protein without excess fat, allowing the body to maintain muscle mass and stabilize blood pressure. Stable blood pressure means less pressure inside the kidney's filtration units, which slows long-term damage. But here is the critical rule most people miss. Pork becomes dangerous not because it is pork, but because of processing. Ham, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, cured pork, smoked pork, these are not foods for weak kidneys. They are loaded with sodium and chemical additives that force the kidneys into overdrive. Even small amounts consumed repeatedly can undo weeks of careful eating. This is where many people finally recognize a painful truth. They were not failing their kidneys by eating too much protein. They were failing them by eating convenient protein. Once pork is cleaned up, lean cuts, simple preparation, small portions, it can safely fit into a kidney-supportive diet. But it must be treated with respect, not habit. And yet, even when chicken, fish, and pork are all consumed correctly, some people still struggle with exhaustion, dizziness, and shortness of breath. That is because there is one final issue that diet alone often obscures, an issue that determines whether your body possesses the strength to heal or continues sliding toward decline: meat #4, lean beef. By the time people rectify their intake of chicken, fish, and pork, many anticipate feeling strong again, but some do not. They tell me, I'm eating clean, I'm careful, but I still feel weak. I get dizzy when I stand up. I'm short of breath just walking across the room. This is where many kidney patients become stuck, confused, frustrated, and afraid. Their condition is progressing despite doing everything correctly. What most of them do not realize is that kidney weakness and anemia are profoundly connected. Understanding the kidney anemia connective: as kidney function declines, the body produces less erythropoietin, the hormone that signals bone marrow to manufacture red blood cells. Fewer red blood cells means less oxygen reaching muscles, the brain, and vital organs. That is why fatigue becomes constant. That is why legs feel heavy. That is why even light activity feels overwhelming. This is where lean beef, used strategically, becomes critical. Lean beef is one of the richest natural sources of heme iron, the form of iron most readily absorbed by the human body. Unlike plant-based iron, heme iron does not require complex conversion. It goes straight to work, supporting red blood cell production. I remember a woman in her early 60s who avoided beef for years because she believed it would overwork her kidneys. Her diet was clean, but she was perpetually exhausted. When blood tests finally revealed iron deficiency anemia, everything clicked. After reintroducing small portions of lean beef once or twice a week, her energy did not explode overnight, but it steadily returned. Within weeks, she could walk longer without resting. Her dizziness faded, and most importantly, she stopped feeling as though her body was slowly shutting down. That was not coincidence. That was oxygen returning to tissues that had been starving. Beyond iron, the complete nutritional picture. Beyond iron, lean beef provides vitamin B12 and zinc nutrients essential for nerve function, immune defense, and tissue repair. In kidney patients where inflammation and infection risk are elevated, these nutrients play a protective role far beyond muscle strength. But here's where beef becomes dangerous if misunderstood. More is not better. Beef is dense and potent. When eaten too frequently or in large portions, it can increase metabolic waste and strain compromised kidneys. This is why I tell my patients that lean beef should be treated as a targeted intervention, not a daily habit. For most individuals with kidney weakness, the safe range is 1 to 2 servings per week, about 3 ounces each time. The cut matters. Sirloin, tenderloin, or trimmed round cuts. No fatty ribs, no smoked beef, no jerky, no heavily seasoned or grilled meats that create inflammatory compounds. Preparation is everything. Preparation matters just as much. Boiled, steamed, slow cooked with vegetables, lightly seasoned. When beef is prepared gently, the body absorbs its benefits without triggering stress responses. Something remarkable occurs when anemia improves, blood pressure stabilizes, muscle strength returns, sleep deepens, and nighttime urination often decreases because the body finally has sufficient oxygen and energy to regulate fluids properly. This is why some of my patients see improvement only after beef is added, not because beef fixes kidneys, but because it restores the strength required to protect them. Bringing it all together, at this point, everything converges. Protein is no longer the adversary, food is no longer perplexing, and fear no longer governs decisions. You now possess the complete picture, not merely what to avoid, but how to eat with precision and confidence. From my years of clinical work, I have learned that the patients who do best are not those who restrict the most aggressively. They are those who understand balance and apply it consistently. They eat skinless chicken breast for gentle, high-quality protein that supports muscle without strain. They add small ocean fish twice weekly for anti-inflammatory omega-3s that protect blood vessels and reduce kidney stress. They choose lean pork loin over processed meats, avoiding the sodium and preservatives that cause fluid retention and vascular damage. And they use lean beef strategically once or twice a week to combat anemia and restore the oxygen carrying capacity their bodies desperately need. The daily habits that determine success, but here is the final truth. Most people never hear. Even the right foods can fail if one daily habit is incorrect. A habit so simple, so overlooked, that it often determines whether kidneys stabilize or continue declining. That habit is hydration. I have seen patients eat perfectly and still decline because they were either drinking too much water, overwhelming already stressed kidneys, or too little, concentrating toxins in the bloodstream. The balance is individual. It depends on your remaining kidney function, your blood pressure, your medications, and your body's fluid regulation capacity. This is why working with a healthcare provider who understands your specific situation is essential. You cannot simply follow a generic guideline. You must listen to your body, monitor your symptoms, and adjust based on what you observe. Final words of encouragement before we conclude. I want you to remember one important thing. Having kidney problems does not signify your life is over, and it certainly does not mean you must live in constant fear of food. What genuinely protects your kidneys is not extreme restriction, but understanding, balance, and consistency. The small choices you make every day, what you eat, how you prepare it, how you listen to your body, quietly shape the future of your renal health. If you take just one insight from today, let it be this: do not starve your body out of fear. Nourish it wisely. Consume the right foods in the right amounts. Prepare the right way. Pay attention to how you feel. Observe your energy, your sleep, your nighttime urination, and how your body responds over time. These signals matter and they deserve your care. In my decades of working with kidney patients, I have seen remarkable transformations, not through medical miracles, but through simple, consistent, informed choices about nutrition and lifestyle. I have watched creatinine levels stabilize. I have seen muscle strength return. I have witnessed people reclaim their energy, their independence, and their hope. It does not happen overnight, but it does happen, and it begins with understanding that your kidneys do not need you to be perfect. They need you to be informed, intentional, and patient with the process. If this presentation helped you understand your kidneys a little better, please save it so you can return to it whenever you need a reminder. You do not have to navigate this journey alone. Knowledge grants you control, and with proper guidance, many people are able to slow kidney decline, feel stronger, and live more comfortably for years. Thank you for your time and attention. Take care of yourself and take care of your kidneys.